Good morning, everybody. We're in our 4th week of vertical marriage, and we're going to have a lot of fun today, but we thought it would just be great to go vertical today. That's in the title of the series, and so we just want to invite you to stand. We're going to teach you a new song that we'll be singing over the course of the next couple of weeks. It's really simple, and it's super exciting and energetic, so we hope that you jump in and sing with us. It goes like this. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Let's sing that together. You called my name. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, out of the darkness into your glorious day. All right, I think you got it. Let's take it from the top. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing, but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my truth till I met you. Let's sing that out. You call my name. You call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your mercy has saved my soul. And your freedom is all that I know. The old made new. Jesus, when I met you, you called my name. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, yes, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now you might be able to relate to this bridge like we relate to this bridge, but I just want to sing it all together. It says, when I needed rescue. Come on, let's sing it. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, and your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day.
Give it up for these guys. It's unbelievable. Well, let me ask you a question. Who is excited to be here after that song today? Is that true? That was weak. Let me hear it one more time. Excited to be here. Awesome. Hey, go ahead and have a seat. My name is Chris Zarbaugh. I'm the lead pastor here at the Clinton Township campus for Kensington Church. And if you're visiting for the first time, we just want to say welcome. And by the way, that song, you may see that at Easter during the holidays. We figured we'd introduce it to you. What an unbelievable song. And we're going to get to know it before Easter. We just want to welcome you and say that if you're brand new today or have been coming for a while, we'd love for you to stop by the Hub, which is our welcome center in the center of the lobby, which, you know, there's a free gift for you. And then also it's the place for anybody to get connected, answer questions, or get connected to an event. The card that I'm holding in my hand, you could grab by the great room where Breakaway is meeting right now, which is our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And this is called the Breakaway Takeover All-Nighter. This week is going to be an unbelievable event where hundreds and hundreds of students from all campuses in our middle school age are going to be meeting at the Orion campus. They're going to Oxford. They're going to end up at Dave & Buster's. It's going to be an unbelievable time. And it's an all-nighter, and I'm telling you, it's the talk of the year. And so if you have a student and they're not connected, grab one of these, or more importantly, instead of grabbing one of these, just go online to our website /takeover. And by the way, if you have a 4th or 5th grader, we have something coming up as well for them. The Ignite 45 is kind of the same idea, but there's laser tag and rock climbing and all that kind of good stuff for 4th and 5th grade. So we've got some incredible events for your students just coming up. And I just want to let you know also that the thing that we want to spend just a few minutes on is March is the time where we're taking a look at and wrapping up and celebrating our 3-year capital campaign that we ran 3 years ago called Everyone. And if you were around then you probably remember thousands of people pledging a bunch of money so that we could build this building along with other projects. So we made a video to celebrate everything that's happening and tell you what's going on. So take a minute and watch this.
This is a for the king moment and for the kingdom moment where we say, yes, I'm in, and I'm in sacrificially, and I'm believing, God, you will provide, and he will. And I'm doing this for you and your kingdom. God may use us, this family on mission, to accomplish your mission.
This adventure called Everyone requires significant financial resources to fulfill our mission to see everyone transformed and mobilized by Jesus. To accomplish big-time kingdom movements like discipling the nations and the next generation, we asked everyone to pray about making a financial commitment over and above their current level of giving. So far, 3,728 households committed financial pledges, totaling over $21.5 million to the Everyone campaign. During the past 3 years, these households have given more than $17.2 million so far. We are blown away. I'm blown away by the open-handedness and generosity of our church family.
With the Everyone campaign coming to a close, let's take a look at what has been completed to date. All of this was possible because of the sacrificial giving of those who participated in the campaign. Traverse City became an official Kensington campus back in September 2016. There were many upgrades made throughout the building, including a new lobby for our first-time guests and a completely overhauled kids wing. We were able to upgrade the equipment in the auditorium so that it has the same level of excellence as the other Kensington campuses. We have seen an increase of nearly 100 kids every week in Kensington Kids. We are accomplishing our mission of reaching the one through younger families and the next generation in Northern Michigan. Now, let's head to the east side. For almost 12 years, the Clinton Township campus made the weekends happen by unloading several tons of equipment into a rented facility. But in May 2018, CT has a permanent facility. Now nearly 4,000 people attend this new facility every weekend, and hundreds come through the doors the other 6 days of the week to discover hope and healing and to learn about a God who loves them and to find community within Macomb County. Did I mention they even have a fireplace? Jealous. We were also able to fuel the Kensington engine with upgrades to things like our website. There were 38,000 unique visitors last month visiting our site. IT infrastructure and online streaming equipment were also improved. These systems will help us manage information and communicate with people to more effectively reach the one. Have you ever heard of the saying, "This is why we don't have nice things"? Well, we can't say that anymore at our Troy and Orion campuses. Now our guests can enjoy their cup of coffee in our updated lobbies. New furnishings, floorings, and a fresh coat of paint in our permanent buildings make this a place where our first-time guests feel welcome. There is also clearly marked signage for the kids area and a hub where anyone can ask questions or get involved. Orange never looked so good. The Troy, Orion, and Traverse City campuses have made several upgrades with security for all the kids' areas. And at our new Clinton Township building, it was built right in. Now this one is not as thrilling as the others, but oh so important. The Orion building received a new stage floor and a new roof. Now, no more buckets strategically placed on rainy days. Seriously, it was leaking. We believe that investing in the next generation is a way to transform our local communities around Metro Detroit and Traverse City. So far, funds from the campaign have helped launch Youth with a Mission in Detroit. We have also poured significant financial resources into fueling our School Partners program, which partners with public schools near each of our campuses. A special thanks to our Kaleo Kids program, which has the awesome opportunity to work directly with 6 elementary schools. These kids not only have a chance to participate in the arts, but to hear about the love of Jesus as well. One of the passions of Kensington is church planting. Many churches to reach many different people groups and regions. In the past 3 years, Kensington has had the privilege of launching 2 church plants. Easttown Church with Clint Dupin and Michael Dupin near San Francisco, and Anthem Church with Colin and Liz Harfield in the Boston area. Great things are happening coast to coast, thanks to the movement of God through the Everyone campaign.
Just because the capital campaign is coming to a close, it doesn't mean all the projects have been completed yet. There are still several powerful projects that need to be funded and will be funded if we hit our $21.5 million in original commitments. We see no boundaries in building God's kingdom. Some households have moved away. Some have had other financial obligations arise that required them to not fulfill their original commitment. But it's still our goal to reach the $21.5 million during the 3 years of this campaign by March 24th. And it's going to take our entire congregation to accomplish all the plans and projects of this campaign. For some, this means fulfilling their original commitment amount. For others, it means giving over and above. And for many, it means making a one-time gift to everyone so that we can finish strong and complete all the projects that God placed on our hearts to accomplish. By reaching our goal, we'll be able to have cash secured in a savings fund for the Birmingham campus when a 24/7 building opportunity arises. After 12 years of meeting at Groves High School, a facility will allow us to make a bigger impact to reach the one. On a regular basis, we're exploring possible locations. It's been in our plans to set aside $3 million for Birmingham's permanent facility. The Troy campus, now being over 20 years old, which is unbelievable, needs updates such as the kids space so that we can continue to pour into the next generation. New signage, auditorium seating, and even a new parking lot is needed so we can welcome our guests with an excellent first impression. For the Orion campus, we have plans for lobby improvements and new seating in the auditorium, a second floor addition in the training wing, and potentially, and maybe most importantly, an orange slide in the kids area. By reaching our goal, we will be able to support and fund projects for our global partners. In Kenya, we'll be able to provide discipleship training for pastors, educate women and children on the anti-FGM movement, and reach the one in Pokot with new churches. In Nepal, we'll be able to fund more border stations between Nepal and India to keep girls safe from exploitation and to bring victims of human trafficking into safe homes to find healing and hope. We believe that God is continually on the move. And because of that, we want to be on the move as well. And all these projects, they're not just about the buildings or shiny new equipment or keeping up with the times or looking cool. It's about people It's about the one. It's about people having a real encounter with Jesus. That's what we live for. It's what we die for. It's what we've given our lives to see happen. And it doesn't matter if it happens at one of our campuses or church plants or school partners or across the globe or in someone's living room. We long to see everyone transformed and mobilized by Jesus.
What do you think? We're celebrating? Yeah, definitely worth celebrating. We are so excited for everything that God has done and everything that God's going to continue to do. Now, for the next few minutes, I just want to say this. Our campus, probably more than any other campus, has reason to take some time and think about this because we're the ones that were on the benefiting end of receiving a building. And I'll have you know something else worth celebrating is that this $15 million campus, we were in a strong enough position, we had an 80% cash down position on this building. Isn't that awesome to be celebrating that? Which is an unbelievable thing. And most of the resources actually came from other campuses, specifically Orion, who has waited for their projects. And so we want to try to do our best to make up the difference. Now, the reason why we said that our campus, more than any other, wants to pay attention to this is because I believe that I think about half of you are brand new in the last 3 years. I don't know if you know this or not, but last year our high attendance at our campus was about 2,200. This year we consistently have been hitting over 4,000 since we've added our 5 p.m. service. And so there are literally thousands of people who have coming or brand new. And so there's probably like 4 categories of people in the room, and we're shooting for March 24th being a day where we can, do something about this pledge. We're calling it Finishing Strong. The first category are people who said, hey, I couldn't pledge, and I couldn't do that, but maybe I could consider giving something. But, you originally didn't pledge, and that's fine. The next category are people who pledged, and they have yet to fulfill their commitment. And what we're saying is, of course, you can go longer. You don't have to finish it. But by finishing your pledge, this month on March 24th, it would help us propel these projects. So that's what we're encouraging to do. That's the second category. Third category are people who actually you pledged and you fulfilled it already. And we've actually had people say either, number one, God's blessed us so much, we're giving over and above, we're giving again, or they're saying, maybe I didn't pledge as much as I should have. And so that's a great category to be in, right? To be blessed, to be able to give more than what you pledged. And then the fourth category are people who are brand new. And you want to be a part of, trying to build another safe house for sex trafficking in Nepal, for finishing the Orion building, who is mostly responsible for resourcing this building and the Birmingham campus and all the other great things to live open-handedly for the kingdom. And so we're asking that this fourth category be the category that consider giving a one-time gift, or maybe even a pledge if you want to go ahead. We're not going to stop you from saying, hey, can I make payments? All that stuff's good, but I just want to say this. Listen. When it comes to money and church, a lot of us have some baggage with money and church in the past. I get it. Believe me, I totally get it. But just understand this, that we believe to whom much is given, much is required. And we believe that God has resourced us in the best nation on earth at a great campus. And we believe that God has given us the calling and just the drive and the vision to do so many great wonderful things. I encourage you to read through this book. And when you get to the very last page, I just want to point out real quickly that on the very last page on March 24th, there's a card. We're going to ask you to pay attention to that and say, you know what? Even if I've fulfilled my pledge, I'm just going to give $20 just so I can say I gave on the great day of giving, whatever it is. But we want everybody to be excited about meeting the needs so that we can fulfill everything that God has called to us to reach everyone that we can. All right? Hey, I want to go ahead and kind of focus the day, and here's what I want to say about the day. Today we are in part 4 of a 5-part series called Vertical Marriage, and you're going to be hearing from David and Wilson on video that I'll come up and finish our time together. They are the experts who have traveled the country for the last 30 years and during family life at retreats, talking about marriage. They wrote a book called Vertical Marriage, which, by the way, is for sale in the lobby, and they're the experts that we're going to hear from. And by the way, today's topic is called Sex in the Chapel. So if you're visiting from a conservative church background today, welcome to Kensington. We believe We believe that this is the place where it should be talked about, and you'll hear about that in a minute. We're very excited about this topic, honestly. I was told that we're reaching capacity in this auditorium, and so when we do something called the crunch, the goal of the crunch is when we stand up, we want to eliminate seats in the middle. So when we stand up, our goal is to crunch toward the center to leave room on the ends for people still coming in. I can see them in the back trying to find seats. So we're going to ask you, if you would please, stand up, shake some hands, and crunch toward the center as we get started today.
Tonight we're gonna make love. You wanna know how I know? Because it's Wednesday. And Wednesday night is the night we usually make love. Monday night is my night to cook. Tuesday night is the night we go and visit your mother. But Wednesday we make sweet weekly love. It's when everything is just right. There's nothing good on TV. You don't have your after-work social sports team practice, so you're not too tired. Oh boy, it's all on. You lean in and whisper something sexy in my ear like, I might go to bed now, I gotta work in the morning. I know what you're trying to say, girl. You're trying to say, oh yeah. It's business time. It's business time. We're in the bathroom, brushing our teeth. That's all part of the foreplay. I love foreplay. A shake, a shake, a shake, a shake, a shake. Ow! You're sorting out the recycling. That's not part of the foreplay process, but it's still very important. Now we're in the bedroom, and you're wearing that baggy old ugly t-shirt you got from work a couple of years ago. You know the one, baby, with the curry stain. Ow! I remove my clothes very, very clumsily, tripping sensuously over myself. Now I'm naked, but just down to my socks. And you know when I'm down to my socks what time it is. Oh! It's business. It's business time. You know when I'm down to just my socks, it's time for business. That's why they call them business socks. Ooh. It's business. It's business time. Ow, 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 ow. Making love. Making love for. Making love for two. Making love for 2 minutes. When you're with me, girl, all you need is 2 minutes. Because I'm so intense. You whisper something sexy like, is that it? I know what you're trying to say, girl. You're trying to say, oh yeah, that's it. Then you say you want some more. Well, I'm not surprised, but I'm quite sleepy. Oh! It's business. It's business. Business hours are over, baby. It's business. It's business.
So today we get to talk about sex.
Woohoo!
You're excited?
I shouldn't be?
I don't know. It's going to be quite a day. It's interesting. Several years ago, we were asked to speak on a marriage cruise called the Love Like You Mean It Cruise by Family Life. And Bob Lapine, our friend who asked us to speak, hadn't told us our topic. So a few weeks before the cruise, I'm texting him on my phone. I'm using my thumbs because I said, Bob, what do you want us to speak on? And he's like, tell me the things you speak around the country on. And we're like, conflict.
Communication.
You name it. So then I added sex. And he goes, oh, you guys need to speak on sex. We have no couple speaking on sex.
And we're like, oh, great.
I text back immediately, are you serious, dude? You want a couple in their 50s talking about sex? And right away he texts back, are you still having sex? Then talk about it.
You think that's so funny?
I think it's funny. So here's the thing. Yes, we still are. And yes, today we're going to talk about it. And it's going to be a great day because it could be uncomfortable for some people. But here's the thing. Everybody else is talking about it.
Yeah.
We know what the culture thinks. We know what movies think. We don't know what God thinks. The church has been pretty much silent on this for decades. I never heard a sermon, a pastor talk about this growing up. The only thing I ever heard in church about sex was it's wrong, it's dirty, and if you do it, you'll go bald. So some of us are really bald. Anyway.
And really, God talks a lot about it.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting, when we talk about this at our marriage conferences around the country, we often have couples line up to talk to us, and we think they're coming up to talk about their marriage. And how often.
Right, and how great they're doing. Yeah, but more often than not, they're talking about this is so hard. Specifically, their sex life and the struggles in their sex life. Because honestly, we all bring so much baggage, especially into this area.
And I'll tell you this. Sitting in the room right now are different categories of people when it comes to talking about sex. There's some are like the blushers. You're like, oh my gosh, you're going to talk about this like with the lights on?
That means tonight we're going to have to do it.
Yeah, and then you've got on the other side of that, you got the locker room crowd who's like, yeah, let's talk about it. But you've got that going on in the room, and we've got to dance that little tightrope.
And then in the room also are, like, for me, I have sexual abuse in my background. And so that's true for some of the listeners. So for some of you, you've gone through that. That's so painful, and it really does affect this area. So how do we walk with that? How do we talk about it?
So we're going to try and be sensitive to that because it is an area of our lives that many people have been hurt. And a lot of that's because we don't even know God's original design. So let's talk about that. We got just 3 thoughts. And the first one is this: bring God into the bedroom.
Which everybody, you're just like, wait, what?
That sounds weird, but here's what I mean. Bring God's perspective into this area of our lives. And as Ann said, God's the one who designed and created sex. I remember we said that once at a marriage conference. God created sex, and this guy in like the 3rd row goes, praise Jesus! It was like, his wife crawled under the chair. But here's the thing. We think the culture came up with it. No, it's actually something God designed himself. You go back to the Bible, to the very beginning, the Bible starts with a wedding, and you have a couple, Adam and Eve, the first man and first woman, and God brings them together, not as just a couple, but as a married couple. And in Genesis, which means beginnings, the first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, it says this: that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Now, there is no father and mother in this garden. It's just Adam and Eve. So what's God doing? He's setting up this institution called marriage. And he says it's a beautiful thing. You're going to leave mom and dad, and you're going to cleave to your wife, and you're going to become one flesh. And that means sexual intercourse. It means sexual intimacy, and it's from the very beginning. Here's another passage that's in the Bible. I didn't even know this kind of stuff was in the Bible. Proverbs 5 says this: may your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth. And then he says this: a loving doe, a graceful deer, may her breasts satisfy you always. May you ever be captivated by her love. I had no idea the word breasts was in the Bible.
What's so funny, I have a friend who has 2 daughters, and she walked into their bedroom one day, and they threw this book under the bed. And she's thinking, what are they looking at? And she pulls it out, and it was the Bible, and it was this passages like this in the Song of Solomon.
It's like you think it's R-rated, but actually it's not R-rated at all. Why would we be ashamed to talk about what God was not ashamed to create?
In marriage.
In marriage, and that's his design. And it's interesting when you think about, okay, what was God's design for sex in marriage? It's really a couple things. One is obviously procreation or reproduction. This is his command to multiply and to build a godly legacy, he gave us a way to do that. It's called sex. Now think about this. If you're God and you want your human beings to reproduce, you could come up with anything you want. It wouldn't have to be sex. It could have been like cross-pollination. You know, you're like in aisle 7 at Kroger and somebody sneezes by you and you're like, oh, I'm pregnant again. Thank God it isn't that way. It's like a whole, it's unbelievable.
It's
God gave us
Yes.
this unbelievable thing. And part of the purpose is reproduction. I tell you what, I never heard there was any other purpose growing up in church. That's the only thing I heard. But if you study the Bible, you find out God also had another purpose, and it is pleasure. God desires that this be something that's pleasurable. He doesn't cover his eyes when a married couple is making love. Think about this. He actually applauds. Some of you can't even picture a God like that, but God actually applauds when a husband and wife make love. He's going, way to go.
Well, I heard one author say that when a husband and wife make love, it's almost like every time they do that, they're renewing their vows. And that's kind of a beautiful way to look at it. But it's hard, isn't it? Like, especially if you grew up outside the church, especially if you have no context for God. Like, to bring God into this, it feels like, wait, it's supposed to be, that seems weird to do that. But yet, he designed it, and he's applauding it.
And one of the most beautiful things about it, the way he designed our bodies, the way God designed the pleasure part of it, is when a husband and wife make love. And by the way, when anybody has sex, this is what's going on. It isn't just physical. It is the most intimate thing you'll ever do with another person, ever. It's soul to soul. It isn't just body to body. Let me tell you, nobody ever told me that.
Yeah.
But that's what's going on.
It's really giving a part of your soul to that person. And that's why we talk about this in the confines of marriage.
Yeah, God says this is so intimate, you've got to protect it. And so God did put some restrictions on it. He says, do this in the covenant of marriage between one man and one wife, a husband and wife. It's like God says, protect it, because you're not just having sex. You're not just having pleasure body to body. This is soulish in nature. You're giving a part of your soul to one another, and you don't want to tie your soul to somebody else that you're not in a covenant of till death do us part with.
And we know, culturally speaking, people are like, what? This is the dumbest thing. I used to think this was the dumbest thing and had no idea that this was God's beauty and design, and here's the word, protection for us. Because Dave and I have pasts that we brought other people into this relationship, and it's really been hard.
And our biggest struggle in our first year, you heard about that, we didn't want to be married anymore. A lot of our pain, I'll be honest with you, came from sexual baggage, sexual memories and things we brought into our relationship. We had no idea what we did before marriage would have an impact on our marriage. Oh my gosh, especially in this area, it does. Why? Because it's that deep. It's soul to soul. And so when you bring God into the bedroom, when you bring God's heart, God's perspective in, it's like you step back and go, oh my gosh, this is so delicate. It's so beautiful. I want to do it his way. And I want to honor him in this way. And so it's a beautiful thing that we've experienced in 3 decades of marriage. As you bring God into the bedroom, you bring his perspective. And so here's the thing. Bringing his perspective makes me, okay, I want to love her and cherish her and honor her. And I want to understand her, as we said last time. She's so different. I'm so different than each other. But this applies in the bedroom as well. So we're going to talk about this. The first thought was bring God in the bedroom. The second thought is this. Your body is a wonderland. You want me to sing it?
Yes.
John Mayer? Your body is a wonderland. Yeah. Nobody knows what he says there. But here's what they're getting at. And we all know this. Men and women are different. And again, we're not saying all women are this way and all men are this way. But when it comes to the area of sex, there's differences. And one of the big ones is just how we approach it, how we think about it. Men tend to be sort of compartmentalized, and women tend to be sort of holistic. Compartmentalized means I have compartments, and I can slide into one compartment and then slip into another, and they sort of never overlap. Holistic, I'm not even sure we understand holistic.
It's like you're global, because everything runs into everything. In other words, if Dave and I had a fight, and then we make up and we're done, but 2 minutes later, Dave could be like, let's have sex. I'm like, we just got over our fight. He's like, yeah, we're over it.
Yeah, and she can't think that way, because here's my analogy. Women are like a string of Christmas lights. If one bulb's out, they're all out. Guys could care less if any of them are on. Let's go. But It's just we're absolutely totally
Yeah, because we're thinking of all of our stuff at the same time. And if one thing is off, it affects every other area. And so I came up with this visual illustration just to help guys and to help Dave explain, like, this is what it's like for me. Let's say this night, I'm like, give Dave the look like, hey, how about tonight is the night?
She's never given me that look.
I have to. Like,
I don't know what this is.
Hey, this is it. That's our that's our little cue there. So that means like tonight it's happening, right? So Dave goes into his sex compartment. So he's upstairs. This is the only thing that's on his mind. That's it. He's waiting for me. So I'm downstairs, right? And here, as a woman, here's what I'm thinking. All right, so what needs to be done tomorrow? Do we have any milk in the refrigerator for breakfast? Do we have groceries? And so I start thinking about that, right? So I start picking up bags. Oh gosh, Dave's traveling this weekend. Like, what's he doing? What's my schedule? What's that look like? Oh my gosh, we're writing this book. We have to write this more chapters in it. I haven't slept. When was the last time that I slept? I haven't slept in ages. And then I'm thinking, if my boys are in the house, I'm like, oh gosh, are their clothes ready? Did they played football? Is all their stuff clean? And then I can think, oh, my mom was sick. Like, is she doing okay? And I need to call my friends. And so I'm picking up all these things, and I'm thinking about this, right? Dave is upstairs in the bedroom waiting for me. It's not even this. I have probably 100 more things clinging to me, thinking about them, and it affects every area of my life. So I get upstairs, right? And I go to bed, and here I am, like, I can barely even get in the bed because it's like, I've got all this on my mind. And then Dave looks at me, he's like, what's on your mind? I'm like, are you kidding? All this stuff, do you not get it? And he goes, no, I don't get it.
And here's the thing, when you realize all this is weighing her down, it's like, okay, there goes that idea.
And then, you know what we do as women? We pick up another bag. It's called the guilt bag, and that's like the heaviest one. So what do we do about this? Because God made us so different. And so we want to walk through that. And I'm going to tell you, for Dave and I, this had a huge effect on our marriage. Because we were great. Like a lot of couples, like how often you do it, the frequency, you're really similar. When we had kids, I was exhausted. So we have 3 little boys running around, and I'm like, this is so hard because I'm carrying all this stuff. And Dave's frustrated because he wants to have sex more. I'm feeling like, well, if you'd be more affectionate, or if you'd be more loving and cherish me more, maybe I'd be interested. And so we were really missing each other. And I was like, why did God make us so different? Like, this is a bummer. I love the book Love and Respect because Emerson Eggridge talks about how we're different as male and female. And he says, to get to a man's heart, and that's what we want as women. We want to get into them and their relationship and who they are. To get to a man's heart, you first have to go through his body, like sexually. But for a man to get to a woman's body, he first has to go through her heart, and it's about relationship. And so it's like, I read that, I'm like, oh, well, that's awesome. We're just missing each other, And yet, why did God do that? Because this can be a real difference. And I'm not saying that all men want sex more than women or women want sex more than men. It could be totally flipped, and I'm not sure how that looks in your family relationship. But this can be real tension.
And the interesting thing about it is I got mad, and we had fights about this because I did not understand how different she was. And we talked about this last time. It's like, what are her top 3 needs?
Right.
Guys, do you remember? Are you yelling this out right now? Because, man, it's like after that last session, I hope you went and said, okay, what are your top 3 needs? And I didn't know that Ann longed for me to be affectionate. She longed for conversation.
I wanted relationship. Right. And Dave, I felt like he wanted sex more than relationship. I wanted relationship more than sex because the relationship led to sex.
And what we both realize is it's absolutely beautiful that God made us so different. And again, in your relationship may be flipped, but it was like, oh my gosh, if Ann was just like me, it'd just be an act. And honestly, I was good with that, right? But no, it's like, it's so much more beautiful and more intimate and deeper than that. And if I was just like Ann, all we'd ever do is talk. So it's like,
not true.
No, I know it isn't. But it's like, oh my gosh, God made us different Because the bottom line is vertical marriage means I go to Christ to find my life, and then out of that I come to my marriage and say, how can I give? How can I serve? How can I honor your needs is more important than mine?
Well,
and that applies in the bedroom as well. It isn't about me. It's about how do I cherish her? How do I respect him? And that makes lovemaking really intimate because it isn't just about me. It's about serving your spouse.
I love what one of our mentors, Howard and Jeannie Hendricks, they were speaking one time. They were in their 80s at this time. And someone in this conference asked them a question, what is sex like in your 80s? Like they were 85.
And I actually went, ugh, I don't even want to know.
But I was like, wow.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, but here's what he said, which I was so surprised at. He said, those of you who have been married less than 15 years, you still don't even get it. You think sex is about the body. Because after you're married for a while, you realize that it's so much more than the physical or just the bodies. He says sex is a union of the soul. It's not about orgasm. It's about combining your soul together because sex can look different when you get older with health problems, with all kinds of things. He said, but when you come together intimately, sexually, in this beautiful way, whatever that looks like, he said that brings glory to God, and that is intimacy, and it's this union.
And when we heard that, we both thought, we're not even close.
Yeah.
We just want to grow in this area, and God wants us to grow in this area, and it's a lifelong process of learning how to love and cherish and cheer one another in a beautiful way, not just everywhere else in your house, but the bedroom, but also in the sexual area as well. So when you bring God into the bedroom, it's like, oh my gosh, that's a broader, vertical perspective I've ever had. When you start to understand the differences between one another, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And let me give you some tips, guys, because you may have seen that situation. I had this one guy come up to me one time. He's like, that is the most depressing thing I've seen when you brought all that baggage up. He goes, but that's my wife. So that may seem depressing, and so here's a tip. Here's what I used to tell Dave. When we go to bed at night, you know, I've got all this on my mind. One of the things that can help me to get rid of that is, first of all, once in a while, ask me this. So guys, ask your wife this. What's the heaviest bag you're carrying in your life? And if you really want to score points, then you say, is there any bag that I can take off that you're carrying that I could carry? Whew, that's a good one. And here's another thing, another little tip. Like, here's what I used to tell Dave. Let's just, like, when we get in bed, can you just...
Are we going to be this honest here?
Yes.
Talking about getting in bed?
When we go to bed, can you, so I can get all this stuff off of my mind, can you just rub my back for a while? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes would be amazing. But rub my back, and stay on the back.
Okay, that's enough.
Because, you know, the hand keeps drifting down. Stay on the back. That helps your wife just to, like, disengage from the day, all the things that are going on in her mind. That really helps. That was frustrating for you, wasn't it?
This is like PG-13. I just went rated R. But anyway, we do want to help because God has taught us so much about bringing God in here and getting his heart and his perspective, understanding each other and the differences. And then here's just one last thought. And I used the song for the last one, Your Body is a Wonderland. I'll use another one from the 60s. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire.
That just aged you.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't matter. But and the thought is this. Bring some creativity to this area of your life. Man, you married couples.
Have fun, yes.
Bring something to this. You go back to the Bible in the book of Solomon. It's really interesting. The woman actually says this to her husband. Come, my beloved, let us go to the countryside. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. I tell you what, I never heard stuff like this growing up from the Bible. It's like, what is she saying here? She's saying, let's be creative. Let's go spend a night in a hotel. Let's go somewhere else and make love.
They were actually in a field, in a vineyard.
And we're not suggesting you do that. You got to be careful about that whole thing. But it's just like, bring some spontaneity and creativity to this area of your married life. And I tell you what, this is something that we've had to learn over the years as well. It can get boring and predictable, and you're busy, and you think this area of the house, this area of a relationship doesn't matter. I mean, make your bedroom a nice place. Don't put your motorcycle in there and your ticker tape stock thing in there. Bring some creativity in there.
I have to even share this. Here's Dave and I, and we'll have like an anniversary dinner or something, and I'll say like, What do you feel like when you look back on this past year? What was the most memorable
You're
moment?
gonna share everything, aren't
Yes,
you?
of the year. Without fail, every time it's this, some like having sex somewhere. I'm like, really? Again? Really?
Okay, one time I was doing speaking at a chapel service for the Detroit Lions as their chaplain on my birthday. It was a Saturday night. We're playing at a home game, and the next morning, and we go to a hotel and spend the night there. So I'm speaking to the guys. It's my birthday, and I'm like 5 minutes into the message. There's probably 30 players and 4 or 5, 6 coaches there. And one of our players walks in late, and he walks right to the front of the room while I'm talking, hands me an envelope, and I barely look at it because I'm in the middle of my thing. I'm like, dude, just sit down. But I look at the envelope, and all I see is it says, Dave Wilson, emergency open. Well, I don't have time, so I put it down, and I keep going. And Luther was his name. Luther goes, no, you got to open that right now. And so then I'm like freaking out, like, oh my gosh, maybe something's wrong with the kids.
Well,
maybe
didn't it say something on that envelope?
It said emergency, open immediately. So I thought, okay, so somebody might have to go to the hospital. So I open it up, and I'm sort of in a panic state. And I don't know why to this day I did this, but I read it out loud. So I open it up, and all these guys are looking at me, and it said, hey, big boy, I'm naked up in room 20, come get me. And I shut it, and I look, and all the guys are like, oh my gosh. And it was her surprising me, saying she got a room upstairs.
The key was in the envelope. Who thought he would read it out loud?
I don't know why I read it out loud, but I did, and these guys were stunned. And so I said to the Detroit Lion guys, I said, hey guys, guess where I'm going after chapel? And Bobby Ross was our head coach at the time. He's like this military guy, prim and proper. I don't think I ever heard him say the word sex out loud. He's in the back of the room, and he goes, hey Dave, you better go now. We'll take it from here. And I'm like, see ya. And I run out. And when I run into those players that were on that team decades later, they're like, the only chapel I ever remember. The only thing I ever remember you saying was that day that you read Ann's note. And it was just basically this. It was like, oh my gosh, it's okay to bring a little fun and joy to this area of your marriage.
Because we get lazy. The demands of life pull us, our kids' schedules, everything is pulling us away. This area is really important because it really does unite you. It's intimate, it makes you one, it makes you fall in love all over again. And I'll end with this story. I had a Lions Bible study that I lead with the wives and girlfriends of the NFL team. And so this one day, this one girl says, hey, tonight's our anniversary. It's our 1-year anniversary, and my husband got a limo, and he's taking me to the best restaurant downtown. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. That's cool. I'm like, but what are you going to do for him? She goes, I'm going. What do you mean? And I go, no, you need to do something special, like wear something, underneath or whatever. Just make it special for him. So she goes, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's not really me, but it's him, so try it. So the next morning, she calls me, and she goes, okay, I'm just going to tell you, best night of our marriage. Like, it was amazing. And my husband said to me, you're not usually like this. Where did you come up with this idea? And she goes, our Bible study. And here's what he says next. He goes, I don't want you to ever miss one of those Bible studies again. So guess who showed up at our couples Bible study?
And this is a husband that never came to the Bible study. He shows up the next week, and he started coming, and that guy gave his life to Christ about 6 weeks later. And to this day right now, they're in full-time vocational Christian work. They have 6 kids, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just an amazing story that this guy ends up coming to Jesus because of lingerie. So, I mean, again, it's just like God's design for sex in marriage is a beautiful thing. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean there's not really real struggles. Yeah. We've had to work through those. But when you bring God into the bedroom, when you understand we're different, when you decide I'm going to bring some life to this area of our marriage as well as others, it can be a game changer. And just a couple thoughts.
Yeah, because this could be overwhelming, and maybe you haven't even talked about this. So what do you think they should do?
Yeah, one of the first things I would say is talk about this.
How?
Seriously, this is an area that's very hard for couples to talk about.
So
I'm
hard.
like, bring it up. Say, what do you think?
And be loving and kind, and pray before you just kind of know how you'll say it so that your spouse doesn't get defensive.
And I'd even say this, parents, talk about this with your children.
Yes.
They're hearing about this everywhere else. Please bring God's word, God's truth to that conversation and talk about it with them as well.
And some of you, maybe you're single and you're like, wow, I've never even heard of this. I've never heard this. What do I think of this? Even though having sex just in marriage, that covenant, I think that's a great discussion to have with friends. Like, why could this work for us?
And the biggest thing is this, go vertical. which means get God's heart, get God's perspective, surrender this area of your life to Christ and let him in and watch what he does.
You know, we wanted to add a comment because we felt after we shot that video, we left something out that was really, really important. And, you know, it's interesting. The first chapter that we wrote for the book wasn't a chapter we planned on writing. I discovered Anne, as I saw what she wrote the first day, she wrote a chapter called Dave's Neck Problem. And I didn't know what that was because I was like, what are you writing about?
Well, the reason I started writing about that first probably was because this was a big deal for us. And what I mean by neck problem was that I realized when Dave and I first got married, every time this beautiful woman would walk by, he would follow her and his neck would move. And I was so offended by that, and it really affected me, my self-esteem, my self-worth, and even my identity. And so I struggled with it, and so I started writing about it.
Well, first you confronted me, first year of marriage, that I had this problem, and I denied it. I'm like, I do not do that. What are you talking about? And so the next time we were at an event, I thought, okay, I'll see if I do, and I did. I honestly was like, oh my gosh, it's something I've done my whole life. I think, it's what men do. And I realized this is a problem of temptation sexually and with sexual lust. And so I wrote a chapter in the book as well called Dave's Neck Problem, Dave's Perspective. Hers was her perspective. And so it's interesting, we didn't talk about that in the video, and we want to talk about it because when I wrote my chapter, we wanted this book to be so raw and so honest and so vulnerable because we know that's where people live and they would connect with, we've lived where you're living. And so it's raw and it's honest. But we wrote this chapter to say, there's a way out. There's a way of victory in this. And I got into, in my chapter, my struggle with porn and how God led me to victory in that. But it was real, and it's a battle. It's always been a battle. And it was connected to this thing called Dave's Neck Problem, but it was really this battle with temptation in this area.
And I'm going to say that this battle can go either way, with women or with men. And so often we keep it hidden, and we don't tell each other about it. We don't tell anybody about it.
And so we live in a world where this is real.
Yeah.
And we wanted to add this because we're guessing many of you, just like us, have or are struggling in the sexual temptation area. And I'm just saying this. Get the book and read this because there's a lot more there. But I would say this. You need to tell somebody today. If this is your struggle, tell your spouse. I know it's the scariest and the hardest thing to do. But as long as it's in the dark, you lose. The second it comes into the light, the second I told Ann, and then some trusted men in my life, my struggle, it was the first step toward victory.
And here's what I would say is before you tell your spouse, pray about it. Ask God how to share it, when to share it, what that looks like. And now if you're the spouse that your husband or wife comes to you and confesses this, here's what I'm going to advise you to do. Don't respond right away because I did and I totally freaked out and I went crazy.
And you had every right to.
Right, but here's what I would do. Like try not to respond in the moment. Just say, okay, go away, ask God, like God, help me to deal with this, help me to know what to do with it. Maybe you're asking a friend to go partner with you and how to pray with you of how to respond back to your spouse. So make sure you pray and then come back together and talk about this.
And the key is you got to tell somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody you trust. Hopefully it's your spouse, but somebody you trust. And I would say go to the back of the book and use the questions on those two chapters. It'll really help you have a discussion. And here's the key. Get it into the light and then watch what God does with it.
And go to God and let him have it and talk to him about it. Confess it. Ask him for help too.
Yeah, let's appreciate them, yeah. Yeah, they're unbelievable communicators. I'm so thankful that they were able to share with such clarity and openness all the things that God has to say. And by the way, I had a conversation with a lady at, believe it or not, a funeral that I was just at. And one of the elderly ladies there and her son said, hey, where is your church? And I told them, and they said, we think we're going to come to this Sunday. And I said, great. And they said, what's the topic about? And I said, it's called Sex in the Chapel. And the guy was like, great, I'll be there. And then the mom said, oh, I just think that's a bad thing to do. And I said, well, you know that God designed sex. I said, we're probably, the church is the only place where it's probably taught with that perspective, and it's where it should be taught because God designed it. He's a part of it, and he even applauds it. It's the reason why he created sex. And so I had that whole conversation with her, and it's just one of these things where if you're brand new to that concept for a church talking about that, I just want to say thank you for, kind of bearing with us, but also thank you for considering or praying about what the next step is, maybe in your marriage relationship. Just to talk about whatever the challenges that kind of came up in your mind and your heart, whatever God has placed on your heart, to even bring it up or to talk about it or follow up with the questions in the back of the book even. Thank you for being willing to do that. Hey, I have more to say, but I want to go ahead and receive our offering at this time. And so as the ushers are coming down, I just want to say if you're visiting here today, you don't have to worry about this moment. You can give if you'd like. Thank you for giving and being a part of the mission that we're on. You can give here in person in the room, or you can give online. There's a couple different ways to give through the website or the app, or even through text. You can text Kensington, the word Kensington, to 77977. Or if you're listening online, you can give right there with one of the buttons. But just want to say thank you for being willing to be a part of everything we feel like God has called us to be a part of. And thank you for trusting us and our leadership. And more importantly, thank you for trusting what God says about giving back to what he's blessed us with. So as the offering is passing, let me just say this. I was at a marriage conference one time. And the guy was up there talking about sex, and he said, let me ask you a question. Raise your hand if you're in here and you have sex several times a week. And all the young people raised their hands, and he said, how many once a week? And there was less hands. And he said, how many of you only have sex once a month? And then there was just a few people that raised their hands, and then he said, how many of you only have sex once a year? It was all married couples in the room, and one guy in the back of the room, he raised his hand. He goes, oh, that's me. He said, yes, that's me. Woo! He started screaming. And the guy says, well, okay. He goes, why are you so excited? And he goes, because tonight's the night. It's a bad joke. It didn't happen. It was just a joke. So, but I just want to encourage you that when you start to bring up these topics, give each other permission, right? And if your spouse is in here, I encourage you to go online and watch it. Invite them to watch it. Sit down and watch it together. And again, if it's awkward, use the book and the questions in the book as the guide, as the thing that, kind of as the third party. But let me say something real fast, too, as well about that addendum video. If you are challenged to bring it up and talk about porn, let me just say this, or temptation or lust or anything like that. I did the same thing with my wife. I confessed to her like in year 2 of our marriage. I was raised in a radically different home than she was raised in. That was just a part of our home, just being raised in the home that I was raised in. And when I sat down to her and I confessed to her that I had a porn issue like almost all men do, she did not understand, and I did not understand. Here's what I didn't understand. What I didn't understand is what Ann said, which is women will immediately think, well, what, am I not good enough? Am I not enough? And by the way, women, you have every right to feel that way. And then what she didn't understand is she didn't understand that men are wired to be, attracted by physical, by sight. So, women are connected emotionally. Men are connected by sight. And so she had no idea. She had no, idea about that. And so here's what happened. I probably shared a little bit too much specific detail. And also she kind of freaked out. And for the next 2 years, it was incredibly difficult. And so our journey was incredibly difficult. And it wasn't until we started hearing messages like this where she started to understand, hey, wait a minute. This is kind of a thing, isn't it? Like, this is a thing with men because men are wired to be attracted to, by sight. And so she began to understand. Not that it makes it right, mind you, but please understand. I just hope to encourage the ladies in the room to say, I hope that you will begin to at least be willing to hear that this is a thing for men. And, and again, it could be the other way around, but I'm just generalizing for the most part. Generalities state that it's mostly with men. And also for men, I would just say, please understand that, you have to take each step with her, and it's going to be a very long journey, but that's okay. I've now arrived to the point in my marriage to where we talk about it so much to where I actually tell Liz when I think somebody's attractive. I immediately tell her, because once it's out there, then it's accountable, right? So like we're, with somebody, or maybe I work with somebody, I'm like, I just want to let you know, I find her attractive. She's like, noted. Excuse me, good to know, right? Because in the end, I want to make sure that I'm accountable and everything's above board. And that's just kind of the point that we've gotten to. So I'd love to pray for us. And I want just to, encourage all of you in the room, whatever season of life that you're in, to take a step, whatever God has challenged you with. So let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today and for the truths in your word. And I ask, Lord, that you would bless us, be with us, and God, give us courage. Give us faith. Help us, Father, to do something different in our lives, to recognize the importance of communicating, the importance of talking, and the importance of getting your perspective on this issue in our lives, which is supposed to be a gift and it's a big part of our lives. So, Father, I pray that you would bless us and be with us now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, I'm going to invite you to stand up because we're going to go vertical in this moment and sing one of my favorite songs together. So listen and sing with us as Katie leads us.
So we're going to sing this song, King of My Heart. I'm hoping that most of you know this song. It's kind of popular. But before we do that, I just want to, if you're struggling to find how it's connected, what does King of My Heart have to do with this moment? I just want to encourage you that in Proverbs, it says that to guard your heart because everything flows from it. And it just got me thinking about how there's a lot of times where we put different things and people on the throne of our hearts, and it affects our behaviors and our thoughts. And it just, whether that be work or lust or relationship or whatever you can think of, we let that flows from our heart. And so this is our moment to put God back on the throne of our heart and just to claim that he's the king of our heart, and that we're going to go vertical in this area and ask God, what does that look like? And just to help us in that wisdom. So just sing along if you know it.
Fountain I drink from, oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life, oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good, oh, you are good. Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves, oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days, oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good, oh, you are good, you're good, oh, you are good, so good, oh, you are good, you're good,
You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. Sing it out. You're never gonna let me down. No.
you're never gonna let me down.
You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me
Well, I hope that you've been blessed and encouraged, and I hope that God continues to work in us and through us as we continue on this journey. We're wrapping it up next week as we finish up vertical marriage. We're very excited about everything that we have coming up. I pray that you would take the next step to get plugged in or get connected in some way. And I definitely pray that God would do great things in the relationships through today's challenge and truths. Thank you so much for being here today. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.